Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. My name is Oladipupo, a monitoring, evaluation, research and learning coordinator at Leap Africa, and we are happy to have you this afternoon. This is our second Dissemination Wednesday at Leap Africa for the year, and the theme of our Dissemination Wednesday for this year is Japa syndrome amongst Nigerian youth. Thank you for joining us. It's a chilly and cold afternoon here in Lagos. So how are you doing where you are and how is it where you are? We would like to briefly know you. So you can briefly introduce yourself in the chat box. How are you doing? Your name, where you are joining us from. Are you a Nigerian in Nigeria? So you can just state your name, your location, that's your state, and the country you are joining us from. And also, if you are in Nigeria in diaspora, you are also welcome. So you can indicate your name, the city, and the country that you are joining us from. And also, if you are a non-Nigerian, you are also welcome. You are here, if you are here for learning purpose, just indicate your name and the city and country you are joining us from. Good afternoon. You are welcome once again. Thank you for joining us. Okay, good afternoon, Faisal Mike from Abuja. You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon, Benjamin Emeka from Abuja. You're also welcome. Thank you for joining us. Dr. Mizi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Jibrin, good afternoon. Welcome to Leap Africa Dissemination Wednesday. You're welcome. Good afternoon, Arakiza Caleb from Uganda. Thank you. So if you're in Nigeria in the diaspora, you can also share how your Japa experience has been. We are eager to learn that. So thank you all for joining us. Good afternoon, Yosola. How is Lagos this afternoon? Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, Inemesit Victor from Akwa Ibom. How is Akwa Ibom this afternoon? Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, Grace Golapo. Thank you for joining us. Engineer Jamiu Salisu from Kano. How is Kano today? Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Vanessa. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. Humphrey, thank you for joining us. Usman from ABU Zaria. Hi, Zaria, this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Yeah. So Nigerians in the diaspora, you can briefly share the city and country you are joining us from and tell us how your Japa experience has been. Thank you for joining us. Abubakar from Aliko Dangote University of Science and Technology, Kano. Wow. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. How is Kano this afternoon? Okay, we have significant number of attendees. Thank you all once again for joining us. Once again, to reiterate, you are welcome to Leap Africa's Dissemination Wednesday, the second one for the year. And the theme of this discussion today is Japa syndrome amongst Nigerian youths. So thank you all for joining us. So I'll be handing over to the senior male coordinator at Leap Africa for the welcome address, my senior colleague, Abdullah Ibrahim. So thank you all. Can you kindly welcome and appreciate Abdullah Ibrahim as he delivers the welcome address for the Dissemination Wednesday this afternoon? Thank you.
Thank you so much, my dear colleague, Kolade, and welcome. I can see we have a host of attendees from all across Nigeria and different, I see from Uganda, different regions in Africa as well. So really good afternoon, everyone. It brings me great pleasure to welcome you to the 5th edition of our Dissemination Wednesday series, hosted by the Merrill team at Leap Africa. So Leap Africa is a youth-focused leadership development organization that is committed to raising leaders who will transform Africa. Now we have them do this through interventions for young people and youth-focused organizations but Leap Africa in itself is an organization that bridges the gap in 5 key areas, particularly. And for us, that's education, entrepreneurship, employability, active citizenship, as well as health and well-being. As part of our approach, we act as thought leaders. And in leading thoughts, we generate knowledge products and evidence-based models that inform and influence policy, practice, and development programs and interventions, of course. And also in line with this, we continue to host, participate, and provide insights and expertise to regional, national, and subnational networks and convenings such as this Dissemination Wednesday series. So it's exciting to see some folks join us from across the African continent. And with this, we are thrilled to have you join us today for a thought-provoking and timely discussion. It's actually an auspicious one because of the current state of the nation. So it's a timely discussion that has become a focal point of national discourse, which is, of course, as Akolade coined it, the Japa phenomenon. As many of us may be aware, especially for our friends from out of the country, Japa refers to the trend among young people, especially in Nigeria, reflecting on their acts or intentionality around relocating abroad in search of greener pastures. So this movement has been driven by aspirations for improved economic prospects, enhanced living conditions, and a safer environment as well. In line with this, the Nigerian Social Cohesion Survey highlighted that, interestingly, 7 out of 10 Nigerians are willing to migrate if given the opportunity. So, of course, it means this could very well be any one of us on this webinar. So a sound welcome to those joining us from within and across borders. Your presence here is a proof of the relevance of this wide-reaching discussion. And as we explore the topic of the day, we hope that so much value will be derived from the diverse perspectives and experiences that you bring from different parts of the world. And our goal today is not simply to raise awareness, but also to foster a discussion that will spark ideas and solutions that will guide both state and non-state actors towards addressing challenges that lead young people to Japa, or challenges that emerge as a result of young people participating in Japaring, and the opportunities as well. So special welcome to our panelists as well for accepting the baton. Dr. Mize, Oludotun, Glory, Aigweni, and Lucia as well. They are very vast in this topic and the topic of research, evaluation, how it affects young people, and the implications on our ecosystem. So we encourage you to actively engage, ask questions, and share your perspectives throughout the session. So as I hand over to our moderator, Akolade, I once again welcome all of you to this webinar as we embark on this journey of discovery together. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Abdullahi. Thanks for that. Such a wonderful one. Please, attendees, kindly appreciate Abdullahi. A round of applause, virtual emojis, and virtual applause for the senior male coordinator of Leap Africa and essentially the male lead of Leap Africa there. Abdullahi, thank you for providing that welcome address for the Dissemination Wednesday. So as I mentioned again, as Abdullahi has comprehensively explained, the theme of our dissemination today is Japa syndrome amongst Nigerian youth. As we all know, the Japa phenomenon has been a persistent subject of discussion in public conversation in Nigeria recently. And for us as Leap Africa also, it's an important thing for us. And that was what informed. We recently conducted a study, and Japa was the central theme of that study. So the study, the questions that we intend to answer with our study is, who are the Nigerians that are actually living the country? Who are these people Japaing? Why are they Japaing? Like, what are the factors or concerns of the young Nigerians that make them want to even leave the country? So, and also, what is the implication of this Japa for Nigeria as a country? What is the implication for the individuals that are involved? And what is the implication for the destination countries, as the countries that they are heading to? And also, what are the factors or circumstances or things that could be done to make young Nigerians rethink that intention of wanting to leave the country? Like, what could be done to encourage them to want to stay back in the country and contribute to the development of the nation? And also, what could be done to even encourage those that have already left to reconsider and want to return to Nigeria in the future? So these are some of the questions that we addressed in our study. And taking it forward, we have an array of panelists, experts in this field, researchers, practitioners, and consultants with their wealth of experience. So they are going to analyze and dissect these different questions and also any questions that you attendees you have this afternoon. So our panelists are going to speak to all this. So I'm going to introduce them in a short while. But before I do that, let me welcome those that are just joining us. And if you are just joining us, you are welcome to Leap Africa's Dissemination Wednesday 2.0. And as you can see on the screen, the subject matter of our discussion is Japa syndrome amongst Nigerian youth. Thank you for joining us. So just to inform you, during our conversation, any key highlights that you pick from the participant, you can put in the chat box. You can also put it on social media and tag Leap Africa Dissemination Wednesday 2.0. And also, if you want to read the transcript of the conversation, you can put on your captions. Just go down on your Zoom screen and put on captions. And if you're a French speaking person, you can also read the transcription in French. So thank you. If you have any questions at any point, you can use the Q&A box and put in your questions. Thank you all. So I'll briefly introduce our panelists before they go into their discussion properly. So firstly, I will start by introducing Dr. Mezie. Dr. Chukwumezie Okolo is a pharmacist, a leadership strategist, and a public health epidemiologist. He's passionate about unmet needs and unequal access to healthcare. Dr. Okolo has advocated for eliminating waterborne diseases and neglected tropical diseases in Africa. He is the principal consultant and chancellor of Dr. Mezie Okolo Leadership Academy. So, ladies and gentlemen, kindly welcome Dr. Mezie Okolo as he joins us this afternoon. Please use emojis and virtual applause to welcome Dr. Okolo. Thank you all. So our second panelist for today is Lucia Mart, who is the Executive Director and Lead Consultant of Verity Development Consulting. Lucia Mart, as I said, is the ED and Lead Consultant at Verity Development Consulting. She's a lawyer and an international development practitioner with over 2 decades of professional experience in research, M&E, and capacity development. Lucia has consulted for reputable organizations, including United Nations, International Organization for Migration, USAID, and UK Foreign, Commonwealth, and Development Office. Kindly welcome Lucia as she joins us this afternoon to engage in this conversation on the Japa syndrome among Nigerian youth. Welcome, Lucia. Good to have you here this afternoon. Kindly welcome her with virtual emojis or virtual applause. So I'll move on to our third panelist for today, Glory Ayegbeni, who is a senior male consultant at Japa. Glory is a male specialist, and her experience majors in human capital development, gender studies, and transition intervention, supporting youth into dignified work. She has contributed to Japa thought leadership and in partnership with the MasterCard Foundation Young Nigerian Work Project. She has also published a regional gender analysis of Nigerian labor market, highlighting the multifaceted issues that frustrate women's labor force participation. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly welcome Glory Ayegbeni as she joins us this afternoon to participate in the conversation today. Welcome, Glory. We are happy to have you here this afternoon. Please kindly use virtual applause and emojis to welcome Glory. So I'll move on to our last and not the least panelist this afternoon, which is in person of Oludotun Babayemi. Oludotun Babayemi. So Oludotun Babayemi is the founder of Clones House. He's a Stanford University Japa His Center on Democracy, Development, and the Rule of Law Fellow. He's a member of so many evaluation associations, including Nigeria Evaluation Association, the African Evaluation Association, and the European Evaluation Society. At Clone House, Oludotun leads multi-sector M&E activities from the pre-design to the evaluation use stage. In the past 10 years, he has been involved in program development evaluation with the Japan International Cooperation Agency. Kindly welcome Oludotun Babayemi as he joins us this afternoon to engage in the conversation today. Oludotun, we're happy to have you here this afternoon. How are you doing this afternoon? Welcome. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Oludotun, and thank you to all our panelists. So we'll start with Dr. Meze Okolo, who is going to share from his wealth of experience. Dr. Okolo is going to speak on the attitudes and motivations behind the youth decision to relocate. Dr. Okolo. Yeah, you're welcome, Dr. Okolo. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining
Dr. Okolo,
us.
kindly unmute.
I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
1 second.
Okay, Dr. Okolo is
Okay,
trying
so
to...
can you hear me, everybody now?
Thank you, sir.
Good. So once again, thank you for having me. Speak here today at Leap Africa. It's always a pleasure to share our thoughts and opinions on these issues around the Japa syndrome. I will be looking at, well, my thoughts around this were going to be more directed with questions, even though I'm going to just say a few things to set the motion. Then hopefully we should be able to interact more with questions. But a part of the background is that I am a new, what I would call a new Paja person. I've been gone for almost 20 years. And this January, I came back to visit for 1 month and I'm still stuck here. So I call myself a Paja person, which is the reverse Japa. Now, looking at the report that you guys sent, I saw something about a lot of people wanting to return back to Nigeria at some point. And I giggled because it is a lot easier to Japa than it is to Paja. And so many people who would want to Paja eventually get stuck over there. And then they end up not being able to do what they want to do. But anyways, sound out as it may, back in the day when we traveled overseas as young graduates, we just couldn't see the future in the system. And even though there were job offers here and there, we didn't care. We just wanted to go abroad. I think I blame it on my parents who were too poor that they couldn't take me on vacations abroad. So I just look forward to going to see what is out there. It was a fashionable thing. It was for me, I don't really think it was just about the economics. It was also some kind of curiosity, and I see a lot of that. Who is Japa? The young people are Japa. Even though now, in hindsight, looking at 20 years of experience, I feel like some of the factors that, whether it be the push or the pull factors, tend to be over-exaggerated. And when those factors are over-exaggerated, then people they contort the picture of the real situation, so that people who embark on these journeys sometimes don't tend to have all the information. And so a lot of people go over there, and then feel stuck or feel displaced, feel out of place. So, and then there are also others who go there and they achieve their results. But everybody has a different story, and everybody's story can never be the same. But when I want to really describe it the way it seems sometimes, I see the whole trend around Japa as a new, smartly designed, modern slavery package. Because when I see the cream of the youth that leave the shores of Africa in search of greener pastures, I feel bad for Africa. Because a lot of these young people that we are losing to the West to go and work and pay taxes, like I feel like I have run the US for the past 16 years. I pay more taxes than the American people. So I can imagine all of us that Africa is losing to the West in our cream and in the peak of our careers. I see a lost kind of generation. And so as much as I understand why people are traveling and why the hype is up, I also feel uncomfortable for Africa that we are losing the cream of our people who hope to come back, but who may never eventually come back. Now, so why are people traveling here? Your research captured some of the pull and the push factors. But let me quickly say that some of the pull factors are also, again, smartly designed to appeal. I think some of them are just smart marketing strategies that the West has been able to design. And so people sometimes buy what I call corporate lies. Okay, so what is the implication for the Nigerian person? Oh, yes, of course, the guy who traveled, there is a lot of good, the bad, and the ugly involved in these journeys. Now, what I advocate is that when people want to embark on a Japa agenda, they need to be well informed about the good, the bad, and the ugly, and make sure that the decision to Japa is evidence-based, and that the decision also to Japa meets your personal life agenda. Because a lot of people who embark on this do not really see. Let's say, for example, you are going for a master's degree. So when most of them ask me what I say to them, okay, so after master's, then what? And then they say, well, maybe I find a job. After that, then what? Or maybe I marry, then what? Maybe I buy a car, then what? So by the time you keep asking them what, they get to a point they don't have any more, then what? Then what? They are stuck. Then what? Maybe I should come back. Well, if you feel that Africa is bad now, like going, by the time you get at that point, you have children. Then your children are 5 years old. And then before you know it, they are now teenagers. You say, hold on, let them go to college. And then by the time they go to college, okay, then it is time for you to retire, man. Because when you are overseas, time flies. And so, on your question about what do we do to discourage people? I don't know if there's really a whole lot we can do to discourage people from traveling, apart from just information, education, and probably national reorientation. But more than that, also, we need to fix home so that we reduce the push factors. If the push factors, today people are afraid, a lot of people are panicking. They don't know if there's going to be demonstration tomorrow or for the next 1 week. And so if we don't have a lot of those kind of factors, maybe a lot of people will not be trying to run away. And people, the part that actually annoys me, or not really just annoys, but pains me, is when people leave very profitable positions, very respectable careers that they're doing here, to Japa to go and begin to do what we would describe as menial jobs. In fact, one of my friends says it's all about going, just people go there to go and take care of old people. So how do you abandon something, something productive that could add to development and just go and do menial jobs that white people wouldn't want to do? So I feel like a lot of our people go backwards in trying to go forward through the Japa arrangement. And then, of course, what do we do to reverse the Japa or to help people who want to come back? Again, it's all about us fixing our house, getting our house in order, knowing that this is our own country and the only one that we have. And then, of course, the reality is that unless and until you have gone and spent time overseas, you will not get to that point where you know that this is actually your country. It is from the benefit of hindsight that people like us are able to say, you know what, Nigeria is not really good, Africa is not really good, but there is an advantage it has for somebody who actually belongs here. There's a feeling that this is home for me. So, and if you have come to a point in life where we are making money to pay the bills and to buy a car and to buy fancy things are no longer your motivation for living, then you begin to see more reason why you should reverse Japa. So in summary, without taking a lot of our time, so that I can have a lot of time to engage questions, is that for me, when people want to embark on a journey, they need to have information, they need to make that, be personally involved in that decision, and you have to make it evidence-based. And then there has to be a plan, a reverse plan from the beginning. So you have to exit before you even go. So if you exit before you go, it will help you to know that you are on a time. And you must abide by your own schedule. Otherwise, the news you're going to be hearing from home, the reports they're going to be telling you, everything that you're going to be hearing is going to make it even more difficult. Today, there are people in America, all they hear is that they are kidnapping all the people in Abuja. I've been in Abuja since January, nobody has kidnapped me yet. So there are other people, when I went to the UK, the last time I went there, were asking me, how do you live in the US? They hear the UK, they say everybody in America is shooting guns and killing people. Now they say, oh, they just even wanted to kill Trump the other day. So how do you all even live there? You see? Now, and then of course, so if I want to show you the bad side of America, I can show you. If I want to show you the bad side of UK, I can show you. If I want to show you the bad side of Africa, I can show you. So if you know what you want, then you decide what you hear and what drives what you do. Otherwise, there will always be enough reason to do whatever you want to do or to achieve your agenda. But for me and people that are in my league, I think that when people embark on the journey, know why you are going and set the agenda and work on your agenda. And hopefully you should find fulfillment in doing that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Okolo, for sharing that with us. That's really comprehensive and insightful, and we are very glad to hear from your experience being a first-hand Japa alumni or alumnus, so to say, and you also draw attention to the fact that in recent times, even as there has been an increase in Japa tendency, there's also been a parallel increase in Japa, which you term as Kwaja. Okay, that is interesting. And thank you for also enlightening our attendees on the importance of having adequate information and preparation before you even embark on any journey. Thank you, sir. I'm sure our attendees have a number of few questions. I know you've raised so many important points, and you mentioned that Japa, you see it as a repackaged modern-day slavery. That is really interesting, and I'm sure so many people want you to expand on that, but because of time, so we'll move on to our next speaker, Lucia, who is going to speak on the factors driving relocation, including economic, environmental, political, and social considerations, factors that are driving young Nigerians to consider migration. So thank you, Lucia. You have 10 minutes, ma.
Thank you, Akolade. And thank you, Dr. Mizi, for that conversation. Okay, so from the research that Leap Africa undertook, we found a number of factors that are, that's influencing people's move, people's desire, people's consideration of emigration out of the country to what they term as greener pastures. And what we have found is that majority of these are economic incentives. So to be precise, about 60% of participants in the study, and we had about 491 participants, roughly about 500 people participated in this research, and about 60% have said that, the reason why they would want to Japa is to look for a better life, basically. So economic reasons. So looking at the push and pull factors like Doc has sort of elucidated, we look at the things that are causing people to go from Nigeria, the push, and the things that are pulling them from other countries. So looking at that economic area, looking at the economic factors, the research showed that the push factors include the rising cost of living. And this is no news to anybody in Nigeria. I mean, you go to the markets today and you buy something, there's no guarantee that 7 days from now you pay the same price. In fact, creditors are on people's necks because, the value of money is basically going down. There's devaluation going on. So the rising cost of living, the high rate of unemployment, particularly youth employment. Some studies put our youth employment digits at like about 60% of youth are unemployed, and that's massive, So there's high rate of unemployment, so people need more. And so when you look at the pull factors, there's that perception that outside this country where the greener pastures are, that we have higher opportunities for employment, you have higher standards of living, and so those prospects are the things that pull people. Those are the economic factors, and that's where the majority of people lie. Other factors are around the areas of political and environmental. I'll put that together. So insecurity, rising insecurity in the country, the fact that people are being kidnapped here and there, people cannot trust our security parastatals to be able to provide safety. And so there's the issue of infrastructure, there's inadequate social amenities as the factors that are pushing. And on the flip side, the pull factor in that area is also looking at the fact that people believe there's effective policing outside this country, that they have better facilities, there's consistent power supply, there's consistent water supply, the environment for business is better, so there are social amenities and things like that. Medical care is also an issue. So looking at all those social amenities, the fact that we have inadequate amenities in Nigeria and outside the country, they have better prospects for that. So that's also, looking at that. But looking also as political and core political, we're looking at people's loss of trust in the government, and we feel there's bad governance and all of that. And like Doc has said, I mean, tomorrow everyone is on nerves. We don't know whether there's going to have a protest or not, and it's all about looking at people losing faith in the systems that are governing us. And then lastly, we're looking at the areas of social factors. Now, social factors is quite interesting. Social reasons why people leave. You agree with me that African culture, naturally, we place a lot of premium on relationships, on family ties, and all of that's very important to us. And to a very large degree in Africa, people have ties. People have family ties, they have social ties, people have networks, people have their tribe, they have their community, and all of that. But there is the pull for beneficial relationships. And again, that's sort of linked to the economic incentives. People want relationships that can actually, connect them to better life. So for instance, you might have friends you are vibing with, you have your community and all of that. But somebody once said that if you look within your circle of maybe 5 to 7 people and you can't find one person, that can actually connect you to an opportunity to better your life, you're not in a circle, you're in a cage. So, so people are looking, there's the pull in social media that tells you that, outside there, you have better networks, you have better people, you expand your network. And that also relates with you having, the support system for you to advance yourselves. When we look at it in totality, you see a situation where people are looking for how they want to advance themselves. And like we said previously, is majorly looking at the economic factor. So to wrap this up, I'd like to say that what we have seen from this research and even from our experiences out there is that people they have personal aspirations for a better life. And taken all together, people don't have the kind of comfort and the life that they desire here in Nigeria. As a result of that, they are looking elsewhere. And it's not everybody that likes confrontation. Not everyone wants to confront the system to get a better life. Some people prefer the path of least resistance. And for people like that, it's easier for them to just check out, you know? And so personal aspirations, the goal to have a better life is the main factor that is leading people to leave the country. And above all, I would say that people don't just want to survive, they want to thrive. And that's why we have the Japa syndrome. Over to you, Akolade.
Well, thank you, Lucia. That is very brilliant. Please, attendees, can you kindly appreciate Lucia in the chat box? Virtual applause or virtual emoji. That is a lot to unpack, and she spoke on the factors that are actually driving young Nigerians to consider migrating from the country, ranging from economic, social, and political. And one of the things that stood out for me is like you speaking about the threats and opportunities when you compare Nigeria to other countries, like, and also making reference to the environment, the social circle of individuals in Nigeria compared to being in other countries, the kind of opportunities they are going to have compared to what is available here in Nigeria. Thank you so much. If you have questions for our panelists that have spoken, you can leave them in the chat box. I've seen a number of questions, but Lucia has already attended to some of them while she was speaking. So if you have additional questions, you can kindly drop them in the chat box. So I hope you are enjoying the program as much as I am. So I will hand over to our third panelist, Glory Ayegbeni, who is going to speak more on the impact of this massive exodus of young Nigerians from the country. Because as we all will agree that the numbers of Nigerians living in the country is going to affect our manpower. So what is the implication of this on the labor force and the future of work in Nigeria? So Glory Ayegbeni is going to unpack all of that for us. Thank you, Glory. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Akolade. Can you hear me well? All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mizi, and thank you, Lucia, for setting that brilliant foundation. In terms of the impact of Japa on the current labor force, I think that, just even reflecting on my own experience in the past few months, you have a circle of friends that definitely have left the country, but then you still have this circle of friends that are like the very patriotic ones, not because they don't feel the impact of what is going on, but it's just really deeply rooted in, or we believe in the best that can happen, and we believe that we can make a change. And it just hit me that I think in the past 1 or 2 months, I'm seeing like a shift in their mindset and a change in their vocabulary. These are people that don't even think of Japa before, and things as little as just trying to get fuel for your generator is the trigger. Like, oh, I don't even think I can do this anymore. So this is definitely a conversation that is very timely, and I think that interventions also need to be timely. And thanks to Lucia for setting that foundation, because if we do not actually know why people are moving, I think it also affects how we evaluate the impact. So one way to look at the impact really on the labor market, while we know obviously that there are existing gaps, especially at the mid-level roles across industries. It used to be a tech thing, but now it's across industries, banking, advertising, even to informal spaces where you have a lot of artisans. There's that massive exodus because there are digital platforms now facilitating talent exports and all that. But one very crucial point I wanted to mention, in addition to some of the things that Leap Africa had already highlighted, perceived impact of mass migration. I think we said about 45% of the respondents had said that the country will benefit from mass migration. I see a lot of the perception there is actually very positive, but I wanted to look at this from 2 points of view, both from the job seeker side and also from the employer side. So based on engagements with hiring managers in the past 1 year, we've seen that a major impact of Japa is not just in terms of the existing gaps, in organizations, but companies are actually losing a lot of their best hands, not just due to actual moves, but psychological shifts. So they call it a Japa virus. What that does is you have workers that are present, physically present, but they're absent in their minds, and that affects the productivity levels of the workforce. So if you've had friends or colleagues that are planning to travel, it takes a lot for you. It's not a straightforward process, and there's a lot of anticipation. In some cases, disappointment, and so what that does, it just affects the psychology of the workers. And according to what hiring managers have also said, it's kind of affects the stability of the workspace, where a person is involved, but they are not committed to the work that they're currently doing, because they are like future proofing and they are seeing themselves in a different context. So we all know that even now that we have emerging socioeconomic challenges, for every kind of work that you do, you need to be very committed to even innovate through the process. So people are giving their minimal, because it's like, I don't think anything, there's also a psychology attached to that. I don't think anything I do concerning my job or anything will make any much of a difference. So let's just do this to earn, or let me just do this job for the meantime. And so that kind of affects the level of productivity that can come out of the space. Now we've seen hiring managers adapting processes to solve this. It's not really working for now, but we've seen cases where the most important question after what is your name during an interview session is, do you plan to travel? Like, is there Japa in your plans? And while that can be seen as some sort of discrimination, it's coming from a place of having to fill roles consistently, having to fill roles. You take a long time to hire, especially for mid-level, and then they don't spend maybe 6 months and then they're out again. So it's like, let's just sort it from the beginning to be sure what your priorities are. And definitely we know that you can't stop people from making moves, but there's just a very significant impact that it has on productivity of the workforce in general. I think a second impact that the Japa trend also has on the labor market is it's forcing us to rethink employment models. We know for sure that young people, we have a preference for flexible work structures. And so, one of the hiring managers that we spoke to someone said, if you want to get a Gen Z to flee, just mention 9 to 5 fully on site, and that's just the end of it. So, it's forcing us to rethink remote work, hybrid work as against full-time work. And that's also because there are now increasing freelance or digital platforms for gig work. So beyond actual shifts outside of the country, people can engage in remote work, working in other countries in Nigeria. So, and that is also stiffening the competition for talent to fill in roles. I think the third one, before I move into the effects generally, is companies cannot justify ROIs on training. So that is also impacting the level of investment that is going into training the workforce. And the impact of that is you already have people in the mid-level role that have, a lot of investment has gone into them. And like I said, this is the most impacted segment of the workforce. And so you have entry level not having the kind of quality of mid-level staff to look up to. And also at the same time, many companies are not investing in training the entry level. So there's that skills gap at the entry level and also experience gap at the mid-level. So I think from some of the learnings, just to add to some of the things that you had already mentioned, 71% of business owners based on engagement at Jobberman have actually said that they think that improving employee satisfaction, just issues around flexibility, like I mentioned, would deter young people from, maybe traveling or even seeking remote jobs or, just to retain them generally. And also the impact is mainly felt at the mid-level compared to the entry level and senior level. It takes a lot to move if you're at the senior level and still be on that level when you move into another country. So in terms of what we need to do, I had mentioned gaps in training and gaps in skills for entry level, and also the need, to support that ecosystem in terms of, while we are facilitating talent exports, is there a way to, have some ecosystem strengthening initiatives where there's still collaboration, even with young people that have, traveled out of the country. I think that hiring managers are already innovating. They are, strengthening succession plans and also making the workspace more flexible to attract a lot of young people. One thing I also found really insightful in the report, that I think it's something that is part of like an impact of Japa, but also creating an opportunity, although it was classified as a risk factor, was the fact that you had mentioned in the report that I think about 55%, I don't know if I'm getting that correctly, about 67% of young people are open to taking temporary jobs in the informal sector before they travel. So there's a switch in that, because there is an assumption that the informal sector is a space that people engage in when they do not have actual opportunities in the formal employment. But what is happening with young people is the informal sector, in terms of informal work structures or informal work environments, gives them the opportunity for the kind of flexibility and what I would call creative work expressions that they require to advance in their career. So you see in creative spaces, in tech spaces, these are the kind of places you have like informal work environments. And rather than seeing that as a risk, I think what can be done, especially for people that cannot travel, they can aspire to travel, but they cannot, instead of being trapped in that informal space, what can be done is to optimize those existing business structures and employment situations so that they can also facilitate the kind of work that young people want to do. So just in a nutshell, those are some of the impacts that, the Japa trend is having in terms of the labor force, and how job seekers and hiring managers are innovating to solve the problem. Yeah, thank you. I hope I'm not looking at my time, sorry, but the next 10 minutes.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Glory. That was very, very brilliant. And I'm sure the attendees, they really enjoyed listening to you, and they find so many insights to draw away from what you shared with us. So much to unpack. In fact, my notes has been really filled up with insight that you shared with us from your experience, like in the space of workforce and the impact of migration. One of the things that stood out for me is, like you said, it's not only affecting the general workforce, but even like the senior members of the organizations they are living, and as such is making the organization, the core structure organization, to become brittle. People that are supposed to pass on experience and culture within organizations, they are leaving, and organizations are now taking other initiative to adapt to that. So much to unpack. Thank you so much for sharing with us. So I'll be inviting our final panelist, who is going to speak on evidence-based recommendations to inform policies and also interventions to stem the tide of Japa in Nigeria. So please join me to welcome Oludotun Babayemi as they speak to us on this team. Thank you, Babayemi.
All right, thanks, Akolade, and all the panelists that have spoken. Akolade, you mentioned stem the tide. So I'll make some. So these are hypotheses and also based on some evidences. So the recommendations that I'd look at is in different. I put it in different parts. The ones for government ministries, the ones for academics, the ones for businesses, so businesses could be entrepreneurs themselves. Then the ones for individuals, so young people that also are planning to get out of the country, or those that are even outside of the country, and at the family level, because we think systematically in order to be able to stem the tide, just like you have mentioned. And also, I like to create a foundation for that we can actually manage migration for selective developmental aims, and also for broader geopolitical goals for Nigeria, as it were. So, recently the World Bank released a report on migration and development. It's a brief, and it shows that remittances by Nigerians outside of Nigeria to Nigeria is about $19.5 billion. $19.5 billion. That alone, and so that alone triples the overseas development assistance. So that's monies coming from international development partners into the country in 2022, which stands at just $4 billion. So what does it means that there's an opportunity in funds that are coming from people in diaspora, that is those that have actually migrated. There are several hypotheses on what that money that is coming from outside the country is used for. In fact, some are also for the next set of people that want to get out. So what does that mean? I would assume that the Nigerian Diaspora Commission starts looking at pathways to use the Nigerian Diaspora Day event, which is an outreach event for Nigerians in diaspora, to actually create awareness on, for example, diaspora bonds. Recently, the Ministry of Finance is touting a diaspora bond, which people in diaspora can use to invest in Nigerian instruments, of course, not in the real economy, but that's a way. I want to see the Nigerian Diaspora Commission using that opportunity to reach out to Nigerians. Now, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which has embassies all around some countries. I put this in between them, and also the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investments. I think in the short term, it would be nice to establish something like an investment desk, where those in diaspora can invest in a pool of funds for SMEs. That's small, medium, and micro enterprises. That's in the short term. In the long term, they can start facilitating and strengthening cross-border enterprises. So businesses that are, for example, in Nigeria, in Canada, in the US, which are Nigerian owned. Recently, somebody reached out to me. He is already Japa. In fact, he's now a citizen in Canada. And he was talking about creating businesses between Nigeria and Canada. That, to me, will create more advantage because we do not necessarily have Nigerian businesses also competing abroad. Don't forget, economically, there's a challenge at the moment where Nigeria needs to make more foreign, we need to make more money in foreign currency, the USD, Euro, Great British Pound. If we had more Nigerian businesses, and I say businesses, not just one-man businesses, we will be able to compete abroad, just like you have Chinese, Indians, Turkish businesses. Also, I want us to note the fact that, and I think Gloria has mentioned it, in terms of ecosystems, the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is doing something on Skill Up Artisans program, whereby artisans can sign up in a program and they are then connected to Canadian entities, German entities, so they can use our artisans. Other than that, I think there should be an improvement, and maybe looking at it from the other side, to pilot talent programs that allows Nigerians in diaspora to work in certain sectors of the economy in Nigeria: health, technology, education, even agri. I think, Glory, you mentioned it, because work is now going remote. So in the short term, we don't necessarily need them to come to Nigeria, but they can work from wherever they are. It's a talent program. It will be done. It is something that can get into the national youth policy. I think within this, the Nigerian Orientation Agency, I think Doctor mentioned it earlier on, has so much work to do to communicate, not just communicating, but communicate effectively and consistently about opportunities for Nigerians in diaspora to invest back in Nigeria. Now, to the academics. Nigerians spent about $38 million on foreign education in the first quarter of this year. Now, that's a reduction from the first quarter of last year, like 83% reduction. I'm talking about like $200 million was spent on foreign education in 2023. To me, I see that as a capital flight, which in essence, our public universities, I think in the short term, should be partnering with these universities abroad. Don't forget, it has reduced this year. It means that universities in the UK do not see the kind of young people they saw last year. So to bridge that gap, I would think that our public universities are now finding ways to partner with universities, even in other African countries, because we've seen Nigerians going to other African countries. Just to round up this, I'd say to entrepreneurs, I think there's an opportunity also to develop platforms that provide the right kind of information. Doctor mentioned that people get wrong information, perception about where they're going. I've gotten stories whereby families spend over 5 million, 10 million on their child to travel to Cyprus, in quotes, Cyprus, Northern Cyprus, to go and study, Northern Cyprus. So I think we need entrepreneurs building platforms that can provide that real information, correct information about implications for where young people are actually going. Well, family level, individual level, I want to end up with that. Please, young persons, we need to invest in ourselves. It's a digital age. Whether you're in Nigeria or you get abroad, I think we need to think about investing ourselves in learning high-value skills, high-tech skills. Because also, if you eventually leave the country, you will be left with the skills that you have. And with that, I'd like to wrap up the recommendation and leave. I hope I've not used past the 10 minutes that you gave me. Thanks, Akolade.
Thank you so much, Oludotun. Those are very, very brilliant recommendations, and we are so eager and very glad to hear them. Thank you so much for sharing with us, and I'm sure our attendees, they're also clapping in the chat box for you. Those are very, very brilliant. It cuts across the different sector from academia to industry to health and to the workforce entirely. Thank you so much. So we have some questions here that we'd love to just quickly respond to because we are running out of time. So the first question, okay, before I take questions from the attendees, while speaking, you also mentioned the Nigerian Diaspora Commission, and incidentally, last week, they actually had an event, the National Diaspora Day, and the theme of that event is Japa. So they spoke, they had conversations around Japa, and the Nigeria president was invited. It was represented by the secretary to the government of the federation. So in his address, he mentioned that he does not see migration as a negative thing. So, and he alluded to the fact that the country does not necessarily need to be worried about Japa as it were. So my question is to Dr. Okolo. So when we think of Japa, like it raises the question, like migration is not negative. is Japa the same as regular migration, or is Japa different from regular migration? And should Nigeria be worried or concerned with the current Japa wave? So, Dr. Okolo, can you quickly respond to that?
In my opinion, I would consider that Japa is different from the regular migration, because the factors that are driving what you call in the research the push factors that drive the trend and the manner in which we see Japa happening is not obtainable in regular normal migration. And so semantically speaking, it's okay to say don't panic about migration. But I would say that I'm worried about the Japa syndrome. The reason I'm worried about the Japa syndrome is that these people that are living, most of the people are living not because they just want to go and get a degree and come back, or not because it is what they have always looked forward to doing. Most people embark on these things out of frustration, out of disappointment in the system, out of they cannot see where the future is. They feel like their children and their grandchildren will be better off. Everybody wants better for himself, for his family. So because our own system is becoming uncomfortable and uninhabitable, so to speak, to its inhabitants, people are trooping out without even, it's like people just jumping over the fence without knowing what is on the other side of it. And I don't think that is normal. So as the name is Japa connotes sudden, quick escape without, it's a kind of a fight or a flight kind of situation. And that's what we see with a chaotic kind of manifestation. So I am worried about it. And that's why, and I think the country should be worried about it. So if there are things that we are doing or we are not doing that are making the youth panic and live in such a hurry, then we should address them. Unless if we are not being genuine, because what has to happen is that the cream de la cream of us run away, and then we leave the country to thugs who call themselves politicians, and then they hijack the system and they keep running the system down. And so to them, it is good news that the good ones are leaving. Because when you leave, you make it easier for them to occupy the system. And so that is my take on it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Okolo, for sharing with us. That is very apt, and we are glad that you shared that with us. So the second question here, I'm taking it from YouTube. So the people joining us on YouTube, there's a question, and this is that I want to hear Glory's insight on this. The person said, "Good day, our able speakers. You are speaking very well, but there are a lot of discrimination from HR in Nigeria. Once you have a certificate from abroad, you already have edge over graduates from Nigerian universities." So, Glory, what do you think about that? Like certificate discrimination, like people that studied outside a country compared to people that studied in Nigeria, and opportunities for them in the place of work in Nigeria.
Yes, thank you so much, Akolade. I think that concern is really valid, and I mean it exists. We all know why, that discrimination also exists, where there is lack of belief in our own educational systems, and it's assumed that anyone that has a foreign certificate is better trained or able to manage whatever it is they're supposed to do in the workplace better than someone that has a certificate from Nigeria. Definitely that's discrimination, and it's not essentially true. But I know that HR communities in Nigeria are currently looking at making the process more inclusive and less discriminatory. So it definitely exists, but there are processes that now exist that checks against that.
All right, thank you very much, Glory, for that. So the other question I will take now is, I think it will be good to get Oludotun's insight on that. You spoke about the migrant remittances, and also that is very, very apt. So there are some school of thoughts that have mentioned that because of the importance of the migrant remittances. So as you rightly mentioned, Nigeria is among the top 10 recipients of migrant remittances in the world. And in fact, data show that in 2017, the migrant remittances received was around 22 billion US dollars, which is about 6% of the country's GDP. So some school of thought are saying, okay, this is a significant amount of money, and could the government do something to encourage or sustain that? So recently, a governor from one of the southern states in Nigeria, he mentioned that he's going to train citizens, young citizens in the states, about 4,000 on digital skills, and he will secure employment for them outside of the country. So in the long run, so remittances from those young citizens of each states are exported as talents to other countries will partly be used to develop the state. So what do you think about such thinking? Does it align with some of the recommendations you suggested?
Thanks, Akolade. Yeah, I think he aligns with it on the surface, and that's what I also said. The Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment is actually doing with the Super program, where artisans sign up, they are being trained, and they expect that they would be part of the economy in another country to be able to increase the remittance. So, you know, it is in the surface, it looks quite easy to do, to plug into another economy and be able to remit. In fact, I might want to hypothesize that you see that governor will not even see remittance during his tenure. You know, he won't see those remittances during his tenure, because whether we like it or not, I think there's going to be a saturation period for the countries that have opened. I mean, Canada opened quickly. Without technology. When technology opened, okay, that was massive. You can see the startup program of Canada. Like, it's not attractive to most people. So, to most entrepreneurs, for certain reasons. So, don't forget that even our own trade artisans, when you train them, there's still a competition that happens. You're competing with Filipinos, you're competing with Chinese, you're competing with Indians, if you think about their licenses, anyone wants to quickly pick them. So I think it is a valid point. It's a way to also go, yes, get people outside and let them start bringing remittance. Like I said, there was a Nigerian who is now Canadian, who is actually piloting that same thing. He now has an institution in Abuja, just opened. What he's going to be doing is training young Nigerians in some tech skills like cybersecurity, like artificial intelligence. He's going to be bringing, so some of them that are successful, he's going to offer them job in Canada. What does that mean? Eventually, they will leave for Canada and then start bringing in the remittances. The point is that it's not as easy as it is. That's a project that is about 1 year now. And he hasn't brought anybody to Canada, but that is what he wants to do. So I think it's not easy. Just to summarize it, yes, it's a good thing to try, but I think we should leave out the politics side of it. Thinking 4,000 young people will get out of the country, be trained, use that skill wherever they're going. Also to think that there are now dynamics in the opportunities, especially for migration. There's closing, there's opening, new opening. I mean, Canada just shot students to permanent residency. They just linked that. They've now opened caregiver. There's another round of caregiver. Germany is opening the opportunity card. Some European countries that started, they are closing up already. So all these things will still are still things to consider, and not think it is Europe that we quickly train people, they go and they quickly do the remittances. Thanks, Akolade.
All right, thank you, Oludotun, for that. That's really wonderful, and it actually answers the question. Thank you. So thanks to all our panelists. I would love to hear a final thought from Lucia before we call it a wrap, because we've run out of time. Thank you.
Thank you, Akolade. Thank you for this opportunity. So my final thoughts would be to say to the youth of Nigeria, you are like the bloodline of this nation. You are the blood that flows in the veins of the nation because it is you that is vibrant. You are the vibrant force of the nation, and you need to think well before you make your decisions. We're not saying don't leave. We're saying make sure that when you leave, you have all the information. We're saying make sure that you don't regret leaving. And if you're leaving, have a plan. Have a plan. There's only one place you can call home. Have a plan for how you're going to come back, what you're going to do with your children, and how you're going to ensure that they know their motherland. So it's not about just leaving. It's about ensuring that when you leave, you don't have a reason to come back and regret, or you are stuck out there and want to come back and you are too ashamed to let us know that you want to come back and you don't have the resources to come back. So we're saying, understand that you're important to the nation. We know that the nation has failed you. The nation has not done as much as it should. But how about joining hands together to see how you can make the nation a better place? If it means you having to speak up in the way that you can. If it means you having to upskill, please do that. But don't just sit back and cross your hands. Remember, if you want to thrive, you need to do something to actually make it happen. So be the change you want to see. We're looking forward to having you take up more opportunities for self-advancement so that together we can have this country advance. Thank you, Kolade, and thank you to the panelists.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucia, for that. So what a very wonderful way to run our conversation today. So once again, I want to appreciate all of you, Dr. Okolo, Oludotun, Gloria, and Lucia, for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate your time and your weight of experience and insight that you shared with us. I'm sure our attendees, perhaps some of the things you shared might have be contrary or challenge their perception, but I'm sure they are well informed about the Japa subject, leaving this webinar. And also our attendees, thank you for joining us this afternoon. We are very grateful for having you here. We are very grateful for having you here. So this is not the end of the conversation for us. You can connect with us on social media at Leap Africa, and you can also visit our website to look at our other thought pieces. So this research that we conducted on the Japa syndrome is going to be published very soon, and it will unpack and show a lot of others or insights and evidence that were generated in the course of the study. So we have a short poll just to assess the effectiveness of this webinar. So kindly take the poll before we call it a wrap. Just few questions. It will take less than 30 seconds for you to fill. Please kindly respond to the poll. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon, and enjoy the rest of your day.